Jefferson Robbins with NCW Life. The Douglas County Commissioner's race is pretty crowded in District 2. 4 people are in the running for the primary election. One of them joins me now, Jimmy Sherrell from East Wenatchee. Jimmy, thank you for being here.
No, very nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
A lot of folks might know you in your capacity as a business person, but they wouldn't know you as a politician necessarily. This is your first time out, so introduce yourself. Tell people about yourself.
Well, you've got that right. I've been a farmer and a small business owner here in the Valley for over 30 years, and so just a little bio on me. I was born right here in the old Deaconess Hospital, which kind of exists as apartments now, but and then I went through the schooling system in Eastmont my whole life. Graduated from Eastmont High School in 1985. Moved. Hung around, got a little taste of trucking and farming, and then met my lovely wife Paula, and we moved off to Western Washington and went to college for a bit, and then we decided to come back in 1992, and I started in the trucking business from then and have been trucking ever since. So took the reins completely over in about 1996, 1997. And so been managing that. We've been a couple of facilities. We used to own basically all of Valley Mall Parkway, and then moved out to the old station area because trucking didn't look great in the city of East Wenatchee. So have had 4 children, Brooke, Jade, Bryn, and Nate, ranging from 32 to 21. So 3 of them still reside here in Wenatchee, and one of them is still lives in the state but is close. So I have 3 grandchildren that we love and adore, and so we other than that, our world, or my world, was that after 30 some years of trucking, I've kind of wanting to move on to something different. And I thought, well, you know what? The community is giving my family and my grandkids a wonderful and safe community. And so what better would it be for me than to give back to that by serving as a public person in Douglas County. So that's when I decided to throw my hat in the ring for that. I'm just a small business-minded guy. I have no political history whatsoever, but I think that's a little part of our world right now, is we vote in too many politicians and not enough people with biblical, small-minded views of the community that we live in.
Let me ask you about that. When you decided to run, did you see any issues in Douglas County that you thought needed to be addressed, things that are kind of crying out and you're like, well, if I'm commissioner, this is something I'm going to tackle?
Well, I as you know, I've lived here all my life, and so every time I turn a corner somewhere on any street in Douglas County, there's some type of new construction going on. And I understand that growth equates to less property taxes, and because it generates a revenue source that that helps pay the bills for the county in that scenario. So I would say there's 2 major issues that I have, what I want to run for, and one of those is law enforcement. I'm really passionate about our law enforcement. I feel like when everybody sits down, cities and counties and states sit down to do their budgets and they fall short, the first place they go is law enforcement. I have to say, I've lived here all my life. I've felt safe my entire life. And so I want those guys to be equipped with the best schooling and knowledge and equipment that money can buy, because they are the safety of our community. So huge deal for me in that situation. The other one is the growth management of what we're doing. I mean, if everybody in Douglas County was to go back and look on their taxes, they would see that our tax rate in Douglas County has actually went down. They don't feel like it because their price keeps going up. Well, that's because there's a huge increase in property value. Everybody's house is worth $50,000 to $100,000 more than it was worth. So as the assessed value comes in, it feels like I'm paying more property tax, but the property tax ratio is actually less than what it was. So our growth is doing fine, I think, and I think that it just needs to really be looked at.
What would be your philosophy about managing the county? I mean, are there particular, life lessons you'd want to bring to bear, things that you think that you know from your experience that you could put into good effect at the county?
Well, I mean, a lot of that has to stem back is that I'm a local farmer. I've farmed here in the valley for over 25 years. And in that, I've seen the agricultural adjustment to our valley. I've seen a lot of orchards being pulled out. But my skills and my skill sets are basically based upon being a small business owner. I mean, I've owned a business in this valley, multiple businesses in this valley, majorly the trucking. So I'm good with numbers, I'm good with budget. When times are tough, we know where to make those educated decisions that have to happen. And a lot of this, I mean, some of it to me, or I shouldn't say some of it, all of it is based upon just a common sense strategic value of looking at things with biblical values. I think we've lost focus of that in our political world.
When you say biblical values, what do you think you would bring to, say, a discussion about budgeting or personnel at Douglas County that would require a biblical value to be applied?
Well, I think the biblical value of that is we're responsible for the money that we have. And so if we don't spend it wisely, then we're not holding up a biblical value of honoring what has basically God has given us. So in my values there is that I just believe that everything can be approached from different ways, and if we have good money and we spend it wisely, the taxpayers of the county will always prosper from that.
You're running in the District 2 primary. There are 4 candidates, as I mentioned. It's a primary, so the folks who vote on that are the folks in that district.
Right.
They will decide who are the 2 people that advance to the general election. And then you run in a county-wide general election. Mm-hmm. But do you feel like that's the right organization for that? Should maybe the voters in your district be the ones who elect their commissioner?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you here. I think even primary should be district-wide because that's who you're representing. I'm not totally against it, and I know that you can't, there's a lot of legislation and stuff, and I'm not a politician for crying out loud, but I feel like if I'm going to represent the people of the county, when I'm doing budgets and we're sitting into meetings, I understand there's 3 commissioners, but all 3 of us have to agree on everybody in our whole district or our whole community, not just the district. So I feel like District 2, it could make a change for somebody. I mean, it really could. If it's only people in District 2 that's voting for us, I think it's going to be a hard road for a lot of people.
Let me ask about a community question. Now, in 2023, early that year, Douglas County, the commissioners backed away from an interlocal agreement that they've been discussing with the city of East Wenatchee. There were 600 homes on the south end in the District 2 area that could have been annexed into the city under an interlocal agreement. East Wenatchee was in favor of it, and finally Douglas County, the commissioners said, we're going to back away from this because we feel like the people in that area should be allowed to vote on whether they are annexed into the city. So was that the right decision on the county's part?
You know what, I think at this point, I think it was the right decision. I would love to see more districts and cities and counties work together in projects like this. I believe they could have came to maybe a little bit better decision and of how they handled the whole situation. I do agree, though, that the people should vote for what they want. I totally disagree with politicians saying this is the way it's going to be, and if you like it or not, it doesn't matter. I love to hear the voice of the people who are the people who have built this community. And so if we start moving away from that, I feel like destruction will happen in our own community, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running.
people who are involved in business, small or large, interface with government a lot. You have permits, you have regulations, you have standards you have to meet. Washington's Department of Ecology says that Midland Trucking at its Highway 97A facility is a contaminated soil site, and it's been awaiting cleanup. It's had that status since 2011. What's Midland's responsibilities? What are your responsibilities given that finding?
So I agree with the findings. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect, and so that happened to us. We had an equipment failure on the diesel pump that they're like going to 7-Eleven. It's supposed to click off. Well, it didn't click off, and one of our drivers was turning in paperwork, so he wasn't standing there, and so we dumped a couple hundred gallons on the surface. There's been no other chemical other than diesel put on there. We went in at the major time of it and put out pads and cleaned up everything that we could do to try to. It was easy containing because where we are, it's kind of an open crevice area, so it's only affected about maybe an area about 20 feet by 100 feet. And so we knew at some point that we would have to go in there and, environmentally clean it all up. And so we've just been waiting for that to happen.
So it's a remediation that you'd have to undertake before anything else can happen to that site, before it could be sold or put to another use?
Actually, it's already been mediated. So we sold the property to the city of Wenatchee, a city of Wenatchee. So, and they've accepted it the way they were. They came out and did their own testing on it and said, oh yeah, this is pretty simple here. We're not worried about it. And so that purchase went through. And so now they own the whole thing. And I had originally leased them some property for the homeless camp. And so then they approached me after that and it was one of the lowest spots in that neighborhood out there, and they eventually have to do a sewer transfer there. So that's why they approached me to buy the property. So.
Well, Midland is a company that's been going for a long time. Your father, James, was the founder, and you are the owner-operator now.
Yeah.
In the last 3 years, Jimmy, Midland has been assessed a penalty for not paying its workers' compensation taxes, 2022, 23, 24, amounts going from about $3,000 to about $12,000 a year. Given that you want to run a county that's responsible about taxation, is this a responsibility that you should take on to a greater degree?
You know what, I really do think it is. We got left legacy debt. When my dad left, there was a lot of hidden stuff under cracks that we didn't know existed, or I didn't know that existed. So we acquired some very heavy legacy debt through multiple things, IRS, states, things that have punished us for a while. And so I believe that we have tried to do the best that we could do, but when you're in the trucking industry, there is a lot of repercussions of things that you don't know that has happened that haunt you for years and years and years to come. And so we have taken every tactical move we could to satisfy all these debts, and so that's what we're doing. I mean, it's about breaking problems down and fixing them in the outcome.
Do you see that as a strategic way of thinking that you could apply at the county?
Sure, I do. Because let me tell you, I haven't had a bowl of cherries in my seat every day. I've dealt with diversity from losing family members to financial dispraise that are really hard to encounter, and those are things that make you stronger. They make you think different, and those are all things that I will take to the county. I haven't had a bed of roses. I haven't had a track of the nice world, and I'm not filthy rich. I'm just there to solve problems, in a small business minded sense, and those may be good and they may be bad, and it's how you structure yourself to fix those problems over years that make you who you are.
Is there anything I didn't ask about, Jimmy, that you think people should know about yourself or about your candidacy for District 2?
You know, if I had to say one thing to the public, I would just say, you know, I'm not a politician. I am not going to go out there and politician, and I'm not going to allow for anybody to buy me off because they need a new development. I'm going to be out there and I'm going to be working hard for the people of Douglas County who I want to serve. That's the most important thing for me. It's not a personal gain for me. I've got multiple different businesses, and now it's time for me to take a different flip over a new page. So,
Well, Jimmy Sherrell, Republican candidate for County Commissioner District 2 in Douglas County. I want to thank you for taking the time.
well, I thank you and I appreciate the time for letting me come in and doing an interview.
You're watching the NCW Life channel.